Welcome to another episode of Your Next Move. I am your host, Evan Saint-Gerard. The purpose of this podcast is to give you some clarity when it comes to you're selling your home, you're relocating, and you don't know where to go. This is your next move. Hopefully it is. My special guest, I'm going to let him introduce himself. Special guest, please introduce yourself. That was a tongue tie.
My name is Tulio Pena from Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Talk to us, Tulio. How long have you been in the industry? Is it just yourself, a team? Tell us about yourself.
For sure. So thank you. I've been in the industry for 28 years, and I run a relatively small team in Colorado Springs out of Keller Williams Partners. It's myself and two other full-time agents and two part-time agents. One of those is my mother-in-law. And then we've got a full-time director of operations. Her name's Jessica. We've got a transaction coordinator who is shared with a couple of other teams. And then we have a part-time admin, 20 hours a week admin that's off-site. So that's the nature of the Pena team, of what we're made up of. Yeah.
All right. So talk to us about Colorado Springs. I don't know anything besides I know there's maybe some snow, a lot of mountains. Talk to me about that.
See, yeah, that's what people think when they think of Colorado. But Colorado it really depends on where you live in Colorado. One thing I tell people who are moving here, or even people who are just visiting, say in the winter when they maybe have some concerns about the weather, what it could be like, I tell them first is we're not Eskimos, okay? It's a very dry climate here. It's a high desert, in all honesty. To the east, it's like Kansas, it's flat. Then about in the middle of the state, we have these big things called mountains that run north-south. And there's multiple ranges of mountains as you go to the west. Ours is the first one. So it's called the Front Range, okay? And because it's the Front Range, the weather comes and goes quickly. It's kind of like if you've ever gone to Florida and it rains and you know it's going to be done in, a half hour or less. Similar here in the winter. We usually know if the snow is coming, and it usually doesn't stick around very long. And because it's so dry, it's usually all gone within a day. So we are not Eskimos. And because we're in this desert type environment, we don't have much humidity. Humidity is what makes heat not pleasant and cold not pleasant, because it's so arid here. Kids go to school in shorts when it's like 30 degrees or or higher. Less than 30, when you break into the 20s, that's when the kids feel like it's cold here. So yeah, and you don't sweat much here without humidity. It's a pretty neat dynamic.
You said a lot of key things. I know a lot of people who are thinking about migrating out of New York or wherever they're watching this from, and they're concerned with the heat and stuff like that, depending on what your demographic, your age demographics are. Let's talk about the kids, people who are moving. They're selling their homes here on the East Coast and they want to go to Colorado Springs, and they want to know what the school systems are, basically where can they go to?
Yeah. So like most parts of the country, we have choices, okay? But our public school system is pretty darn good here, okay? Yes, we do have some private schools, usually related to some, Christian affiliation, Christian or Catholic type schools. And those are very highly rated too. But for the most part, our schools go by numbers here. So we have school districts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up through like 38. And almost all of them go from, I would say, good to great. And all you have to really do is follow the money to end up in great. Okay. The great ones fall in the areas where the homes are a bit more pricey, I would say, and the lower socioeconomic areas tend to be where the school districts are a little more challenged. But even those ones have been improving over time as home values have increased and taxes have increased over time. One thing that's really neat about Colorado is it's a state of choice. So if you want your kid to be in a certain school district, for the most part, you can fill out the paperwork and you can choice your child into a school district where you don't live. There's just no buses to get you there. So you would have to drive your kids. We choice our kids in. We live in school district 49, which is good, but we live really close to school district 20, which is great. So we did the paperwork. We choiced our kids in, we drive them to school, and they get a phenomenal education in the district that we are happy with. And that holds true as long as there's room in those schools. If those schools are maxed out, then you might not be able to choice into that school. But there's more than one school for elementary, middle school, and high school in most districts. That's something that can be different for a lot. Some people live in a state where you have to go to the school where you're at, and the only other choice is private school. So that's something that's pretty cool about Colorado, I would say.
All right, I like where we're going with this. Now, talk to me about the people who are a little older, let's say college level. They're coming out there for better education, and they might be starting a family also. So we talked about the youngsters, and let's talk about people in our age group, basically, who are going back to school, or the grandparents who are following their kids who are starting their families. They want to be close to the grandkids.
Yeah. So we see that. We see people move for all reasons, don't we? We have couples moving, individuals moving, sometimes families, parents move after them because grandkids are happening and stuff like that. So, but if anyone's seeking higher education, we've got higher education in all the major cities here in Colorado, from Pueblo to Colorado Springs to Denver and Fort Collins and Boulder. Okay. Where there's CSU up in Fort Collins, CU, the Buffaloes in Boulder, multiple colleges and universities throughout Denver. Here in Colorado Springs, we've got the Air Force Academy, which is like it's a military school. It's almost like an Ivy League school. It's not easy to get into that. You have to have a congressional appointment to get to go there. We've got Colorado College. We have a branch of University of Colorado here in Colorado Springs, and then down in Pueblo, there's a branch of Colorado State University. And then there's also type of community colleges or state schools too, where one can further education if they wish at any adult level. So we've got all those things as well. And I've had many clients and friends who've gone through those educational programs.
Well, we talked about education, so the next thing is basically work. What about work? What kind of work can we find out in your area?
Yeah. So in Colorado Springs, first of all, I call it a big small town. We have everything you need, and everything's within about 30 to 35 minutes away from each other. You don't have to, it's not Dallas, Fort Worth, it's not LA, it's not, Chicago that can take an hour and a half, 2 hours to get across. You can
Or New
literally
York?
get, yes, you can get across, right? You can get across here what helped me answer that question? I'm looking at my computer screen while I'm looking out towards the mountains, but looking at my parking lot, and a gentleman just walked by in his military uniform. Colorado Springs has a wealth of military representation here. Okay. We have a very large Army base on the south side of town called Fort Carson. It's the biggest show in town from an employment standpoint. On right here, just to the south of my office, is Peterson Air Force Base, which also houses a very large representation of Space Force. Space Force is divided between here and Huntsville, Alabama as well. So we have a big chunk of it here in Colorado Springs. We also have another base that's further east, but still Colorado Springs. Okay. And that's called Schriever Air Force Base. That's just a box out on the prairie. It's high level, top security stuff. Then we have the Air Force Academy, where there's a lot of cadets and a lot of educators there as well. And that's a major facility. And we also have NORAD, which is a mountain here in Cheyenne Mountain, where there's a lot of it. It was designed originally for where the president would go if a nuke were to be stricken against the United States. It's like envision a naval vessel built into a mountain. Okay, that's what it is. And they can control all representation of the military from inside a mountain if something, God forbid, bad happened in the United States. So with that comes a considerable amount of representation of companies like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and other major engineering, aeronautical type engineering companies that support tech and aviation, I would say, weaponry in the military and everything else. And aside from that, we have what everyone else has. We have hospitals, we have schools, we've got all, restaurants and every type of business imaginable, family owned, law firms, all that kind of stuff that just has to exist wherever, people live. So, but the military in all its different representations would be the biggest show in town here.
You mentioned one of my favorite subjects besides real estate, food. Let's dive into the food. If you only have one place to pick in your area, what kind of food would it be and what restaurant would it be?
Oh man, that's a funny question because I'm simple. I'm a burger guy. And in the West, they like their beef here. Okay. If you ask me what's the one thing I like to cook, I would say green chili. Green chili is very representative of the West and the Southwest. Okay, they grow chilies that are actually red. And a lot of the restaurants sell these. They'll even smother burgers with them. They call that a slopper here. And green chili can be a sauce, it can be a relish, it can be a hearty stew. I make it as a hearty stew, and it's delicious with the chilies actually roasted and then put through a food processor and then turned into like the base of your soup with chicken stock, and then onions, and then pork, and then beans if you want them, and all this other. And it is delicious. And it's hard to come by them outside of Colorado or New Mexico and northern Texas, parts of California too. When you're not here, people are like, what's green chili? They don't get it. So any restaurant, I guess, that serves a really good green chili, you know, and here you can get burgers smothered in it, and that's called a slopper. So that's just something I would say would be regional to Southern Colorado and just a fun meal.
You know what? As you're talking about this, I'm actually envisioning in my head. I'm like, how soon can I go to Expedia and book a flight to you right now? I'm like, that's something I got to try. All right. So besides the green chili, anything else basically like a best kept secret that people don't know about food wise that they have to try, or some kind of something different
Not
that
necessarily food, Evans. You know what? One thing that I think sometimes when people think of Colorado, first of all, living anywhere in Colorado, they think maybe mountainous, that you're in the mountains all the time. And that's not really the case. When you live along the Front Range, all the major cities of Colorado, Denver, Boulder, Fort Collins, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, okay, those are the major cities where most people live. We have traditional suburban neighborhoods, okay, with traditional construction. But in almost any of those towns, you're about 20 to 30 minutes from what we call the foothills, from being able to start a hike in the mountains. Like I can look out my window and see Pikes Peak. That's a 1,000 tall mountain, and it's called America's Mountain. Everyone's heard of Pikes Peak. Some people have no clue it's in Colorado Springs, though. Okay,
I did not know that.
you are within 30 to 40 minutes, I would say, of hiking, camping, river fishing, river rafting. We're a bit further from snow skiing because that's like another mountain chain away. You have to go up and through a mountain and then through a huge valley and then to another mountain chain. It's about 2 hours to 2.5 hours away to mountain towns like Breckenridge, Keystone, Vail, those areas where you would go skiing. And that's where the weather gets trapped in a little bit more because you're between multiple mountain chains at a high altitude. So that's that. But you can live in traditional neighborhoods and be not too far away from the mountains, and you can see them everywhere you are. Okay, but you don't have to live in a log cabin up in the mountains and fight off bear and stuff like that. That's not who we are. We're normal people living normal lives. We just have beautiful mountainous scenery around us.
Well, being that this is a real estate show, we probably should talk about the real estate as you're enjoying the food, the education, and everything else. Talk to me about the real estate. If somebody's selling something here in New York, let's say 650 to seven and change, they're selling their property here and they're using that money basically as a down payment, or depending on where they are in their lives, if they're looking for a forever home or if they're looking for a property, condos, co-ops. Tell us what they can get.
Yeah, sure thing. So the median price hovers around 500,000 in southern Colorado, in
So
Colorado Springs. Okay, and when you go north, if you go to Denver, it's easy to add another $100,000 because it's a major city. Everything is a little pricier up there. Okay, so aside from that, coming from where you're coming from and the price points you discussed, if someone sold a house and they liquidated something around 700,000 and they had that amount of money to put down, that would be a very nice home here in Colorado Springs, in a solid area, in a respected school district. It would get you a home about 3,500 to 4,500 square feet, 4 to 5 bedrooms, a 3-car garage on a lot that would usually be about 8,000 to 12,000 square feet lot. Okay, so a pretty decent home. It's real easy to creep into the 800s to the millions and up to 1,500,000 or so. Once you start breaking that, that's really gets more into luxury, I would say. When you're approaching the 2 million point, you don't see that many people in that price point here. They exist just like they exist anywhere, but that's a percent of a percent. So between I'd say 475 and about 600 get you a nice home in Colorado Springs. So yeah, I think one could do really well coming from UR to this direction.
So depending on where they are in their lives, let's say for a retiree, they don't want to do steps or stairs anymore. Can they find stuff that's suitable for them, like a one level property?
They can. Now, the funny thing about Colorado is we have basements in most homes here. Okay. So it is funny when people go, well, I don't want a two-story. I'm like, so a ranch would be agreeable with you. Yeah, a rancher would be agreeable with you. Okay, great. Now, our ranchers often come with basements. You might not use your basement, but it's down there. Okay. Some builders have built on slabs or on crawl spaces. Okay. And there are what we call patio homes here. Sometimes they're singular homes, but in a community where the HOA takes care of all the grounds and everything for you. Sometimes they're paired patio homes or like duets where they're connected by a party wall, one wall that's shared between the two. And those could be more agreeable to, say, a retiree or someone of an age or has an ailment where they can't or don't want to do stairs anymore. Those up, but it's not uncommon for those to come with basements. And often the basements are where the grandkids hang out and play and do their stuff. So, but yeah, that we have them. We are, as when the market really took off in the early 2020, 2021 and stuff, we started to see things go more vertical here. And I think that happened a lot throughout the nation where homes got taller and lots got smaller. But there's always a need for the types of neighborhoods you discussed, and we have them.
All right, with retirees or whoever it is, wherever people are stationed in live age group, we need to talk about activities they can do. You mentioned the outdoor activities. What about concerts? Stuff to do basically after you finish work, or you just want to. Yeah, the grandkids are here basically, and they're a little older, and you want to take them out. What are things that they can do that they can look forward to?
Yeah, so Colorado Springs is pretty nice, but especially because you can enjoy outside most of the year. January and February can be the months where the days are shorter, okay? Because days are shorter in the winter, especially when you're further north in the country. And we have the mountains to the west, so the sun dips down behind them 4 o'clock. It starts to get dark here in the wintertime in January, February. So the days are short here, but there's always stuff to do. In the summer and the spring, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of like communities have events on the weekends, on Fridays and Saturdays. There's music in the park type of events that are, if you all you have to do is look for them. Okay, but we got festivals almost every weekend going on somewhere in town. We've got a really neat, relatively new amphitheater on the north end of town called the Ford Amphitheater. And there's always concerts going on at the Ford Amphitheater. Up in Denver, which is 1 hour away, they've got the Mile High Stadium where the Broncos play. That's where big concerts are. We have this venue called Red Rocks, which is amazing. Anyone who really is into music has probably heard of Red Rocks before. It's one of the most it's natural. It's red rock formations that they carved down the middle and put an incredible amphitheater in with awesome acoustics. And if you have a favorite band and they play at Red Rocks, they are worth traveling for to go see. People do from all over the country and other countries to go there to see their favorite band play. So those are neat things that families, individuals, couples can go do.
Well, you mentioned the Broncos, so we got to talk about sports. One of the sports.
The sports can be hit and miss like they can be anywhere, but I think that if you have professional teams, that's pretty darn cool. And you should be grateful for having a professional team. You guys got the Giants, you got the Jets, you got the Knicks, you got all the people you got and whoever your fans are here. When it comes to pro football, we got the Broncos and we've had great years and we've had bad years, but we still are blessed to have them. We got the Rockies. They're nothing to write home about right now, but we have them. And baseball fans still go. We've got AA and AAA teams in the different towns here. We've got, I don't even know what league they fall in, but we have a soccer team here called the Switchbacks. And they have a beautiful stadium that's downtown Colorado Springs. People love going to the Switchbacks games, and they have fireworks at the end. Yes, we got the Broncos. We've got the Rockies. We've got the Avalanche for hockey. We've got college football in the Buffaloes at CU Boulder. We've got the Rams up at Colorado State University. We've got the Air Force Falcons and all the sports that the Air Force offers, and most of that is D1 sports. We've got a bunch of D2 schools as well. If you want to watch sports, there's plenty of sports, and Colorado Springs has an amazing soccer team here as well. That's a pro soccer team called the Switchback.
Or football? Soccer or football?
Well, I'm Hispanic, so it's football. But the Americans here call it soccer. And like I said, we're blessed to have it, and it's all fun. We've got local stuff and bigger stuff up in Denver, so which isn't far away.
All right. You've mentioned so many things, so many things. I have to ask one question. Out of everything we talked about, something maybe it's something that we didn't discuss. What's a best kept secret that people don't know about that they should know about Colorado Springs? That hey, you know what, this might be the place that could be your next move. What's something we have, we want to share?
Well, there's several of them, but I think the weather is one of the best things. It really is. We are, like I said at the beginning, we are not Eskimos here. The weather is beautiful. We have four seasons, genuinely. And none of them are terrible. None of them are wicked. Some people might think. We are not like Wisconsin. We're not Michigan in the summertime. We're not Canada. The weather comes and goes. And because it's dry, it's very tolerable. So that is the best kept secret, I would say, and proximity to the mountains. We use our mountain. I think if you live here, you should enjoy them, and they're not far away. You can see them. Some people think when they, from a real estate standpoint, that they have to have a house with a view. Okay. There's a view everywhere. There's a view in your car. There's a view walking to your mailbox. There's a view driving to the grocery store. Everywhere you go, there's a view. If you really want to spend another $100,000 to $150,000 on a house, you can pay for that view. But the view is everywhere. I say live in the view. Don't dwell on spending the extra money on it. Best way to reach me, just give me a holler, 719-351-4083. Once again, 719-351-4083. Or visit us at thepenateam.com. You can sign up there, become our friends, become our clients, learn all about Colorado Springs, and connect with us. We'll take great care of you or anybody you care about that might be headed this way. I would say so, definitely. We've got clients who own investment properties here. We have some people who just, buy a single family home and it becomes an investment property for them. Because we have a very solid and long term relationship with the military and multiple branches of the military. It's not like sometimes you hear of a city that has one base and they go, oh, if they lose that base, that city's going to be in trouble. It's like losing one major anchor business in a city. But because we have multiple representations of Space Force, Air Force, Army, Air Force Academy, and we've got representation from the Marines, the Navy, and Canadian Defense living here as well. All those things tie into what you just asked and really providing stability for the area.
I just want to thank Tulio for being on as our guest. And my question to you is, what are you waiting for? You ready to make that move? Give me a call. Queens, Brooklyn, Long Island, wherever it is, we can assist you. You have questions. Moving is not easy, but we can make it easy for you. Your next move is to give me a call. Pick up that phone. Let's have that conversation. Talk to you soon.